everyone, and welcome back to the Very Cold Lasagna podcast, your filthy casual place for all the filthy casual takes on the world of sports. I am your host, DylanLasagna, and welcome back to another episode of this icy yet spicy podcast, episode number 124. And, well, welcome to part 2 of our NFL 2022 Conference Championship Weekend previews. So, last episode, we talked about the NFC Championship game between my San Francisco 49ers and the Philadelphia Eagles. This episode, we're going to be talking about the AFC Championship game between the Cincinnati Bengals and the Kansas City Chiefs. An immediate rematch from last year's title game. So, man, I feel like this game between the Bengals and the Chiefs could either be more exciting or can be a little bit more meh this time around. These two teams know each other so well. They played each other so many times within the last year. But I feel like there's a little bit more intrigue. But not that kind of intrigue that would make you go, oh shit. This is going to be good. The intrigue that's kind of like, yeah, I'm not sure. Like, this game's going to go down like people think it's going to go down. So, why do I say that? Well, we'll get into it as we go along in this episode. Before we go deeper into this episode of Very Cold Lasagna, just a little bit of housekeeping first. Obviously, like I said, in case you missed the last episode or part 1 of our NFL Conference Championship previews, well, make sure you go back and watch it or listen to it, however you want to consume Very Cold Lasagna. To do so, make sure you subscribe, turn on the notifications on YouTube, and on the audio side, make sure you listen to it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor FM, and Google Podcasts. The last episode, we covered the NFC Championship game between my 49ers and the Eagles. And then after this weekend, we'll be recapping both of those games in another two-parter. And in between that two-parter, we'll have a Royal Rumble review. Like I said, hopefully there'll be a certain electrifying return. If not, I'll be very disappointed. I will. It would suck so bad. So anyway, make sure you also rate and review Very Cold Lasagna on whichever audio podcast platform you're listening on, and leave a comment or leave a like or dislike on YouTube if you're watching it there. So that being said, let's get into this AFC Championship game between the Bengals and the Chiefs. So these two teams have faced each other so many times in the last calendar year, but this is where all the marbles are being thrown into yet again. Just like last year, in last year's AFC Championship game, that the Cincinnati Bengals won 27-24 in overtime. That game was insane. Like, the Chiefs were up 20-3 at one point, 21-3 at one point. And then here come the Cincinnati Bengals with their crappy offensive line, and Joe Burrow in the offense came back, roared back, and took the lead 24-21. And then the Chiefs tied it back, forced overtime. And the common theme was in that playoffs for the Chiefs, coming off that crazy win over the Bills, was like, oh man, if they win the coin toss, it's over. They're gonna win this game. So they win the coin toss again, just like they did against the Bills, and then everyone's thinking, fuck, they're gonna win this game, aren't they? And then sooner you know it, Patrick Mahomes turned the ball over under pressure, and then the Bengals grab an interception on a yeet ball, and they march down the field. Evan McPherson kicks a game winner and sends Cincinnati to Super Bowl 56. Now, unfortunately, they didn't win the Super Bowl against the Rams, but it marked as a defining point in their modern franchise, because this was a different Bengals team than the one we've been accustomed to in the last several years with, Marvin Lewis, Mr. playoff failure Marvin Lewis. So let's talk about both of these teams. How these teams get to this point in the AFC title game. For the Cincinnati Bengals, they finished the season 12-4, only playing 16 games because of the canceled Buffalo Bills game in Week 17. But man, what a crazy way to end their season, though. I mean, aside from what happened at home with the Bills, they claimed the AFC North again because of the canceled game, but they definitely have every reason to feel slighted with what happened in Week 7 after the events of Week 17 because, well, with the revised or at least and then the revised playoff format for what happened, they nearly lost the home game in the playoffs because, well, had they lost to their eventual first round opponent in the Ravens in Week 18, the playoff game between them would have been decided on a coin flip. And it had Baltimore won that coin flip, the Bengals would have had to gone on the road to face the Ravens despite winning the division in the first round. Like that's so unfair to them. And then the NFL left them out of a potential neutral site AFC title game. So it was only the Bills and the Chiefs as options. Like the Bengals were again, left out of that option. So what do? They go on this run. And in the first round against the Baltimore Ravens, that everyone expected Cincinnati to blow out because, well, they were being led by Tyler Huntley and not Lamar Jackson. They almost shit the bed. They almost crapped the bed on that one. The Ravens defense limited Cincinnati's offense, and Tyler Huntley was okay in that game. And surprisingly kept it close until he didn't. Because the decision to have Tyler Huntley try to jump the ball when they got to the goal line in the third quarter ended up being the biggest mistake of the night for them because he had that ball punched out and then Sam Hubbard, Cincinnati's defensive end, took it the other way, all the way, and then that fumble return would be the difference maker. The Bengals would haul off any late shenanigans from Baltimore 24-17 in that wild card game. Then they had to go to a snowy Buffalo for the divisional playoffs and take on the Bills in a Week 17 rematch that never was. In that game, they went in missing 3 starting offensive linemen. They were already missing Lyle Collins to a season-ending torn ACL, and then they were going to this game missing 2 of the 2 other starters. And they also lost another starter in center Ted Karras with an apparent knee injury. So, yikes. Despite all of that, though, despite all the injuries in Cincinnati's offensive line, they completely beat the brakes off the Bills. They were hammering. They were super smashing a depleted Bills defense. They quickly jumped out to a 14-0 lead. And then defensively, they bullied Josh Allen up front in his non-existent offensive line. They made Josh Allen run for his life all game long, and they put the offense totally out of sync so much, Stephon Diggs was yelling at his quarterback. And overall, they limited Buffalo's offense to just 10 points as the Bengals snow angeled their way to a 27-10 blowout. Like, wow. That goes to show, that tells you that they were pissed. They were pissed off at the NFL for slighting them, for pissing them off. They were saying, fuck you. You ain't getting your neutral site AFC title game. Send everybody their money back because we're going to Kansas City to play again in the title game or a chance at the Super Bowl. So Cincinnati looks pretty dang good. Meanwhile, for Kansas City, for much of the season, they're competing with the Buffalo Bills for the AFC's top seed, despite losing to Buffalo in Week 6, despite losing to Cincinnati in Week 13. But they kept pace. They've been doing so good on offense. Defense and special teams, another story, though. I mean, still, they got Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. That's besides the point. the canceled Bills and Bengals game in Week 17 gave them an opportunity to prey on the top seed in the AFC. All they had to do was win and clinch against the Raiders in Week 18 in Vegas, and that's exactly what they did. They rung around the rosy in Vegas and nabbed the AFC's top seed. So they got the first round bye, took advantage of what was given to them, and, well, they got a week of rest. Then in the first playoff game that they had in the divisionals, they seemed primed to easily dispose of Trevor Lawrence and the all-elite Jacksonville Jaguars with how well they quickly rolled on offense. But the biggest story of that game came late in the first quarter. Patrick Mahomes had his ankle rolled up from behind by Jacksonville defenders, and he tried to tough it out a couple minutes. But Andy Reid was like, you need to go get x-rays. You need to go get x-rays or I'm taking you out of the game for real. Like no comprendo. So he went out, got some x-rays, and Chad Henne, their backup, came in just like 2 years ago against the skid marks, the Browns. And backup Chad Henne filled in nicely, led the offense in relief, thanks to some assists from Travis Kelce and rookie running back Isaiah Pacheco. So the offense ended up going 17-7 at one point. Jacksonville cut it to 17-10 at halftime, and Mahomes was returning in the second half. But yes, he was able to advance the ball down the field with the offense. His mobility was clearly hampered due to the injury, and the lack of mobility kind of limited what the offense could do. All Mahomes could do was just like throw some mid-range strikes to his receivers. He couldn't like throw the yeet balls that he usually can with his legs. So his mobility is severely limited due to the high ankle sprain. And despite that, though, they let the Jaguars beat themselves with mistakes for the rest of the game, and it was just capped off with Jamal Agnew's fumble, Trevor Lawrence's late interception in the fourth quarter. Kansas City holds them off 27-20 to advance to their fifth straight AFC title game. So, yeah, not even Tom Brady with the Patriots did that. 5 straight AFC title games. So, here we go. The Chiefs and the Jags going at it. Not the Jags. What am I saying? The Chiefs and the Bengals going at it once again for the right to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. Obviously, the biggest thing, though, for this game is just how healthy both these teams are. What am I mean by that? Well, for Cincinnati, the biggest thing is their offensive line, just like last year. Except this time around, even though they invested this past offseason last year on their biggest weakness from last year, the offensive line, it's just like where they were last year in the Super Bowl with the Rams. Half of their offensive line, their starting offensive line, is basically unhealthy. They don't have La'el Collins anymore with the ACL injury. They're not sure if Alex Kappa and Jonah Williams are going to play in this game. But they could possibly get Ted Karras back. He was seen fully practicing despite a taped ankle. But even if Kappa and Williams don't play, their reserves, Jackson Carman and Max Sharping, they were solid villains. But they're going to face a much tougher challenge with Frank Clark and Chris Jones going up in their faces. So that pass rush is going to be much more ferocious than, well, whatever the Buffalo Bills were giving to them. Meanwhile, for the Chiefs, obviously the biggest thing going into this game is how healthy Patrick Mahomes is going to be. Sure, they could say all they want that Mahomes looks a little bit better than he did like a couple days ago with his ankle sprain. But the thing is, high ankle sprains are no joke. Just look at how many ankle sprains that my 49ers have had with their players and how many ankle sprains just in general around the league have faced this past season. Like the ankle sprain in Mahomes is clearly gonna have an impact on how well he can move and how much he can run in this game. So with a Bengals pass rush, like pretty good in their department against the Chiefs offensive line, and getting to Mahomes, that can get to Mahomes. Yeah, it's gonna be tough for him. It's gonna be tough. So a lot of questions surrounding how healthy Mahomes is gonna be in this matchup. So looking at some of the key matchups for this game between these two teams facing each other for the second straight year in the title game, and for literally the second time in like a month. So looking at some of the key matchups, obviously there are two major ones. Cincinnati, like I said, Cincinnati's offensive line against Frank Clark and Chris Jones. Again, a lot of questions about like literally two of their starting offensive linemen. If the interior, if Williams and Kappa cannot play in this game, then they're gonna have they're gonna have a kind of tough time with Clark and Jones, and on the exterior, they also might have a tough time. So either way, Cincinnati's offensive line has to protect Joe Burrow. Compared to last year, they can't have him running for his life again. Speaking of running for his life, they cannot have Patrick Mahomes even at 50-50 running for his life, because if he shows that he can't move against Cincinnati's front seven, then the Chiefs are screwed. The Chiefs are screwed in that department. Sure, he can throw like some mid-range throws to Travis Kelce or like some solid deep balls in the pocket, but if he shows some signs that he cannot like move outside the pocket, then there's not much of a chance that the Chiefs keep it close. Like the Bengals will eventually find a way to really get to him. So looking at some keys to victory for this game for both these teams, for Cincinnati, you have to find a way to limit Travis Kelce's opportunities. Like the cog of this offense is going to be, Kelce. Just like it was against Jaguars last week. That's why Kelce set a record for most targets, most catches by a tight end in the playoffs or something. So if you're the Cincinnati defense, you want to pretty much clog the primary target of the Chiefs offense, and by doing so, you create opportunities for Juju Smith-Schuster or Marcus Valdes-Scantling. Those two guys aren't exactly that reliable in a playoff situation like this one. So you really want to limit Kelce's opportunities. You really want to neutralize them, while also going after the secondary players like Smith-Schuster and Scantling. So you got to find a way to keep Kelce limited in the middle of the field, and on the other side, attack the Chiefs secondary. Attack their secondary. Joe Burrow can always defer to Jamar Chase, defer to T. Higgins. He can make those mid-range throws to both those guys, because the Chiefs secondary is not that intimidating. And he's seen that defense already. So he knows what it's like to face them. So Joe Burrow can definitely attack them and find ways to poke holes in that backfield of Kansas City. So it's could be a long day if Joe Burrow can really attack that Chiefs secondary. For Kansas City, you gotta find ways to give Patrick Mahomes time to throw in the pocket, and you have to protect them. Like I said, if Mahomes shows no signs of being able to move in that pocket with that high ankle sprain, sure, you had some time to recover. But if he can't have his usual or even some of his mobility, then he's gonna need time to throw. He's gonna need time to throw. The offensive line really has to do a good job of protecting him, so he could throw to Kelsey, so he can throw to Smith, so he can throw to Marquez Valdez-Scantling. He's going to need all the time in the world to throw. Otherwise, that pass rush is going to close down on him, and he will suck the hell out of him. So you got to give Patrick Mahomes a lot of time to throw in this upcoming game. You also got to find a way to contain Jamar Chase and the litany of receivers. It's going to be hard, but if you can find a way to contain Jamar Chase, then it'll be a difference maker. You also got to find a way to neutralize the running game with Joe Mixon in there, because once you neutralize the running game, you're gonna have to force Joe Burrow to move with his legs too. So that's something else to consider. And then another big thing for Kansas City is their special teams. Their special teams unit has been really bad the last couple of games. They also gave up a good chunk of field position to the Jaguars, and gave them good field position to start their drives in that last game. So that special teams unit for Kansas City cannot give away valuable position for Burrow and the Bengals, because if they do, and with their defense being suspect, then Burrow is going to prey on them. He's going to prey on that defense, and especially if they get really deep into opposing territory, like on special teams, then he's going to strike. He will strike on them. So this is another big game for conference championship weekend. But like last year, it's going to be a game that can be close. These two teams really deserve to make the Final Four. Obviously with the pedigree that Mahomes and Andy Reid and Travis Kelce have had, they're really good unit. For Cincinnati, they're really on the up and up. They definitely overcame the dreaded Super Bowl losers curse after getting so close to beating the Rams in Super Bowl 56 last year. And everyone thought midway through the season, including myself, thought they were going to miss the playoffs. But they went on this winning streak. They really found their stride late in the season to get back to the point of being that damn good again. And here they are now on the cusp of potentially going back and maybe redeeming themselves from last year. So it's going to be an interesting game. Obviously, it's going to come down to which team is much healthier. Right now, in spite of the issues with the offensive line, I think it's Cincinnati. They have the much healthier quarterback, because you're just not sure what to expect from Patrick Mahomes with the bum ankle. How is his health and his ankle? How is he gonna move in the pocket? Is he gonna be able to make those crazy those runs outside the pocket on the left to the right and make those, for example, sidearm throws? Or is he gonna be able to extend the plays running towards the first down marker? Is he gonna be able to do all that? And to be honest with you, we're not sure. We're just not sure at the moment. Meanwhile, for Cincinnati, yes, you have an offensive line that has questions about the health of its starters. I mean, aside from Lyle Collins, who's not there because of the season-ending injury, but you do have a quarterback that plays calmly under pressure, doesn't make that many mistakes. You also have a really good supporting cast that really helps its quarterback that in these kind of situations. So it can go either way. These two teams play it close. Mahomes plays his damage, but I think Cincinnati will find a way to close out the deal once again against the Chiefs. It could be either really close or it can be a total blowout for Cincinnati against the Chiefs. So I'm rolling with the Cincinnati Bengals against the Kansas City Chiefs. But hey, any given Sunday, as the saying goes around here, around sports, any given Sunday. And yes, they'll somehow, some way, we'll be talking about how Patrick Mahomes got it done on a bum ankle. But I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. But my gut is telling me Joe Burrow and the Bengals find a way to get it done on Conference Championship Sunday, and then they set their ticket to the Super Bowl again. So those are my thoughts on this AFC Championship game. What do you guys think? Do you think Joe Burrow and the Bengals go repeat as AFC champions, punch their ticket back to the Super Bowl, and potentially get the redemption? Or does Patrick Mahomes on one leg, one foot, potentially get back to the Super Bowl for the first time since 2020, and get his way back there in spite of the ankle injury? So let me know your thoughts. Let me know your thoughts in wherever you can, or it's a comment on YouTube or on social media, on Twitter at Very Cold Lasagna. I'd like to know your thoughts on this upcoming AFC title game. Yeah, words are hard to come by these days. Sentences too. So just let me know your thoughts on this upcoming AFC title game in the coming day. So that is it for this episode of Very Cold Lasagna. I'm your host, DylanLasagna. Thank you for tuning into this podcast episode number 124. And yeah, we will be back with the recaps for these two title games. It'll be a two-parter, so one for the NFC title game and the other for the AFC title game. So yeah, once these games are all said and done this weekend, we will be back to recap them both. Football season is about to end. But anyway, I am DylanLasagna. Thank you for tuning in. Keep that very lasagna very cold in the fridge with your takes on the world of sports. And until next time, peace out.